everyone, my name is Binks and welcome back to Let's Play Great Ace Attorney 2 Resolve, where we will be continuing in the third case of the game, The Return of the Great Departed Soul, Trial Part 4, The Old Bailey. Alright, looks like we have managed to bring the suspected accomplice, Dr. Scythe, onto the stand at last. Let's go!
Thank you for your attendance at such short notice, Dr. Scythe.
I'm disappointed in you, Lord Van Zinks. You've completely betrayed the agreed policy of both Scotland Yard and the prosecutor's office.
Betrayal is not in my nature, as long as the truth isn't compromised. If it is, if there's even a hint of wrongdoing, then no matter whom it concerns or disgruntles, I will pursue the matter to the bitter end, as would any prosecutor worth his salt.
Yeah, you go. I love to see it. You love to see him coming into his Edgeworth era. Mr. Drebber, you took the victim's life by means of a machine that you constructed in your workshop. And Dr. Scythe, as the investigating coroner, you were the first on the scene to examine the victim's body. It is the belief of the defense that you collaborated with each other and were both complicit in this crime.
And where's your evidence?
At present, we have no definitive evidence, but we do have a very significant clue.
What are you talking about?
I'm talking, of course, about the waxwork. This model of the killer known as the Professor, who was sentenced to death 10 years ago.
You don't need to tell me. I witnessed the man's execution with my own eyes, and officially pronounced him dead.
That remains to be seen.
Is that so?
According to newspaper reports from the time, on the night following his execution, the killer came back to life.
Don't waste my time.
And the sole witness to that mysterious event was you, Mr. Drebber, wasn't it? If what you saw in the graveyard that night 10 years ago wasn't some chilling fiction, but reality, it would make you privy to a very great secret of Dr. Scythe's. A secret so profound it could compel the coroner to agree to collaborate in your evil scheme, in fact.
He's been silent. I mean, if I was a murderer, that's what I would do. I would clam up. Why would I say anything? You know? You open your mouth, you give yourself away. That's how these things go. You plead the fifth without actually having to plead the fifth, because I'm sure it doesn't exist here.
Mr. Drebber, tell the court. Tell everyone the truth of what you saw that night in Lowgate Cemetery.
So he was the student you saw it?
You can see the resemblance, actually, can't you? With the man in Madame Tusspells, I mean. Surely he's not going to claim that's really what he saw, especially not after all these years.
He was a research student at the University of London, was he? And a bit too clever for his own good, if you ask me.
What an interesting twist. When at the time, not one person would take me seriously. Yet now, here we are, 10 years later, and suddenly my story matters, and in a court of law, too. Very well then, if everyone so wishes. Let's be frank. I'll tell you the truth of what happened that night, for what it's worth.
Interesting how she looked over at him and like nodded like, go ahead. But what version of the truth are they going to say? Or is she allowing him to say?
So, Mr. Drebber, your testimony, please, about the events of that night 10 years ago. You will tell the court exactly what you stumbled across in Lowgate Cemetery.
Yes, of course, as you wish.
In the cemetery 10 years earlier.
The reason I was in Lowgate Cemetery at all 10 years ago was for a spot of moonlighting, shall we say. Yes, the illustration in that newspaper article was based on what I witnessed that night. But thinking back now, I realized that I never actually saw the professor. Soon afterwards, I was visited by a young woman who sculpted a model of me from wax. Then I gave up on my dream of becoming a scientist, and it was all because of that newspaper article.
Wait a minute, you're claiming you didn't actually see the professor now?
Oh, come on. Of course, you'd have to have a screw loose if you believed a corpse could come back from the dead.
Uh-huh. Sure, dude. Sure. And your hair turning white?
But, so you're saying this article is...
Not worth the paper it's printed on. I think that would describe it perfectly, yes.
If the details in the article aren't true, it nullifies your argument for why Mr. Drebber and Dr. Scythe would have been working together.
So he's discrediting himself to cripple my argument. Tell me, witness. You claim to have been in the cemetery on some auxiliary business. Can you elaborate?
Thank you, Judge, so I don't have to press him. You're pressing him for me.
That's right. Grave robbing, to be precise.
Makes sense.
As you know, Lowgate Cemetery is at the rear of Barclay Prison. So, among students at the university, it had a reputation for being haunted by the ghosts of condemned convicts.
Grave robbing, you say?
Yes, exhuming fresh corpses to sell is reasonably lucrative. Of course, I never laid a finger on any valuables buried with the dead.
I don't know if I believe you, but whatever. So, you were one of the so-called resurrectionists, a particularly unpleasant scourge on society.
Actually, my fellows and I went by another name, the Repurposers.
That is quite beyond the pale. You would invite divine retribution, sir. May they strike you down.
Yes, well, I think I suffered retribution enough. The Daily Circus eventually unearthed my name and put it in print. It caused me a great many headaches. In the end, I had to leave the university. That was the only paper with the bad grace to identify me unambiguously, I might add. Might be karma. I mean, sounds like you did kind of deserve it. I feel like this is all like bad people doing things to other bad people, you know? The only innocent person here is Hairbrain. That's what it feels like. I mean, so far we don't know if Dr. Scythe, other than her participating in this crime, which is bad, like before that, was she a good person? That's the only thing we don't know. I mean, I doubt it though, right? I mean, the fact that she might have participated in some kind of cover-up about the professor case and all of that feels shady. But considering the professor was a serial killer, it's like it's such a big gray area because there's still so much we don't know that I can't jump to any conclusions about her character and say that she's a good or a bad person. And you know how it is with characters, when they're so nuanced, you can't just say someone's all good or all bad, you know? But there's a lot of karma going around here. That's pretty much what it comes down to. You did a bad thing and then karma came for you, but you still got angry about it, so you went and got revenge on the person. Yeah. And then you got innocent people roped up into it. Pretty much.
I see.
Out of interest, who drew the illustration for this article?
Ah, yes, that was the reporter who exposed me. He sketched that right in front of me as I described the scene.
Gotta say, Asmund, you got some good artistic skills there for a businessman. It's interesting that he was like this rich businessman, but I guess he was a reporter. But maybe he came to own that newspaper eventually, and then from then on he became more of like a businessman and maybe owned other properties and stuff. Because, you know, that's probably how he eventually became more and more wealthy and got his hands into other more lucrative and more illegal business opportunities from there, I'm assuming.
Obviously, as time ticked on, I bitterly regretted what I'd done. Claiming to have seen something I never truly saw. Foolish, very foolish.
Well, counsel for the defense, you may proceed to the cross-examination now. At once, my lord.
Alright. In the cemetery? Let's go. Well, he already pressed. Spot of moonlighting. So we already know. Grave robbing. Illustration. Never actually saw the professor. I think you're lying about that. We could press on the last one, maybe?
Hold it!
This article, you mean? Published in the Daily Circus.
I mean, I'm wondering if we can jump to motive? Because this feels like a motive to me. It ruined your reputation. Yes, somebody informed the dean that it was my name that appeared in the article. Oh, I forgot she was there. I was like, who's this third person? Oh, she's still there. And carelessly let slip that night after night I was digging up graves. Hardly a model student, you might say. The university's reputation was Wow. What word is this? Okay, Google. Sometimes I don't want to bother, but right now I'm curious. Execrably? What is this? Very bad? Deserving to be detestable? Very bad. Wretched. Okay, that makes sense. How to pronounce it, though? I don't want to go to... Okay, it's not gonna let me. It's like, you gotta sign in to prove you're not a bot. But I am signed in. What are you talking about? Oh, whatever. Maybe here. Hold on. Let me hear this.
Execrably. Execrably.
Execrably. That's the British version, and
Execrably.
execrably in the US. What a weird word. Okay. Never heard of this word before. Okay, I've been learning some new words through LPing the past couple of years. Execrably. The university's reputation was execrably defiled, and I was expelled as a result.
Mon Dieu, I had no idea.
And having been run out of university, you found employment in a somewhat specialist trade.
You combined your knowledge of science with knowledge of stage magic to create various experimental machines intended to demonstrate never-before-seen technology. And you used those deceptive machines to trick the government and private investors into giving you money. Professor Albert Harebrain was just your latest victim, wasn't he?
Whatever are you talking about? Yeah, he's not gonna confess to that, bro. I have no recollection of doing anything of the sort.
What's Drebber up to? Why would he suddenly change his tune and recant his claim?
I wonder if perhaps it's because his circumstances have changed now.
What circumstances?
Well, if he admits to having seen the professor emerging alive from his grave 10 years ago, it will expose a secret in Dr. Syde's past that she would desperately want to hide.
Yes, of course,
He's protecting her.
if Drebber and Dr. Scythe are working together now, then if Drebber were to betray her, there would be no reason for her to continue to cooperate.
Yeah.
In that case, there's only one way around it. I'll have to prove he really did see it. Prove he really did see the professor's corpse coming back from the dead as he originally claimed.
Yes, Mr. Naruhodo, exactly.
Okay, so that's what we really have to focus on. Was based on what you witnessed that night. Let's talk about that more then. I'm not sure where to go from here, so I guess pressing.
The strange happening at Lowgate Cemetery, which you now deny.
Not entirely. I ran to fetch the police at the time, you know. I was shaking like a leaf. but they didn't believe a word of it. In fact, I was very nearly arrested myself.
So you went to the papers instead.
I started big with the London News, but unsurprisingly, they didn't want to know either. In the end, though, it was reporters from the gossip rags, the gutter press, that came to get my story. And it spread like the plague through the capital as gossip-hungry Londoners lapped up the tale.
The story was in every single paper at the time, with the exception of some broadsheets.
And yet only 2 or 3 of them actually interviewed me personally. Most of the accounts turned out to be very interpretive ghost stories.
What about the article in the Daily Circus?
That particular journalist found me at my dormitory. I don't know how, but he discovered my name. So I recounted to him exactly what had happened that night.
And from your description, he drew this illustration.
Precisely. That's how I learned that the condemned man was the infamous professor. Because the reporter told me so. I had no idea myself, you see.
Newspaper reporters are wont to snoop around in matters that don't concern them. So the scene portrayed in the illustration is accurate, then?
Well. Okay. Let's see.
What are you talking about?
I think I explained already, didn't I? Lovegate Cemetery is at the rear of Barclay Prison. So it was renowned among us students at the university for being haunted by the ghosts of condemned convicts. For some absurd reason, I was scared of the graveyard at night, and as a result, only too willing to believe that nonsense about the dead coming back to life.
But you said you actually saw it.
I said what I'd seen in my mind's eye. After all, resurrection is impossible, isn't it? You'd have to be unhinged to think otherwise. Unless, of course, you have some evidence that proves I encountered the professor that night.
The blood in the camera?
I don't know. I really... what are we going with here? What's our evidence that you really saw him that night? The camera? Same. I thought it might be the camera. Is there anything else in here? It has to be this. I mean, this is so detailed, right? How could he have something so detailed that he just came up with? Especially if he says he didn't know that it was the professor. That's the thing I find the most interesting that he's just said, right? When we pressed him. It has to be this. So,
I don't know. Is there any material evidence that could show he really did see the professor?
if we have anything at all, Mr. Nedahodo.
I know. I need to present it against that irritatingly backtracking statement of his.
The point is, that night was a pivotal moment in my life. Okay, that's definitely the one, so... I think it's the article again. I feel a little nervous about it, but I don't know if we can do the camera yet, you know? I feel like it has to be this.
Objection!
Yeah, okay. Ooh, I don't know if you guys can hear my stomach. Sorry. Guess I'm hungry.
Sorry, Mr. Drebber, but I don't believe that.
Don't believe what?
Your latest claim. You did see the professor on that night 10 years ago.
Oh dear. We seem to be at odds. But I was there, and you were not. I know what I didn't see.
The illustration with this article was drawn based upon what you told the journalist that you witnessed. A figure emerging from a tomb, wearing an iron mask.
Yeah.
Yes, when the killer was tried 10 years ago, it was decided in a closed court ruling that the man would wear the mask to hide his identity.
And you didn't know that was the professor, so come on now.
It wasn't to be removed even during his execution and subsequent burial. Not even the prison wardens were to see the man's face. But obviously the provision of this mask was not public knowledge.
Aha.
So, Mr. Drebber, as you've just heard,
Ah.
a lowly student of the University of London certainly wouldn't have known about the condemned man's mask. So unless you'd actually seen the professor that night, it's inconceivable that the artist would have included the mask in that illustration.
Ah.
Order, order! Well, Mr. Drebber, are your pants on fire? 'Cause I see some sparks, you know.
It's a vile scene, isn't it? If you look closely.
Well, you recovered quickly.
And, as I've already been at pains to point out, I was utterly petrified. Which is why I had it in my head that I'd seen such a blood-curdling sight. Come on now. But afterwards I came to my senses and realized that I'd been mistaken.
You're still saying you didn't see it? If you're stubbornly sticking to that story, witness, then amend your testimony to explain exactly how you think your eyes deceived you.
Of course, of course. Only too happy to oblige.
I can't believe he's still not going to concede the point.
Stubborn. He's not going down with that fight. What I in fact witnessed was a fellow grave robber at work. What? Oh, come on.
Hold it!
A fellow grave robber? What are you talking about?
Well, I wasn't the only one busy in the cemetery that night, you know. Other body snatchers were at work. Of course, when I saw one emerging from the hole he dug, my heart very nearly stopped. So what, he's wearing an iron mask? Come on. So that's the terrifying sight I actually saw, you see.
You're claiming it was just another student on equally insalubrious business as yourself.
Many of the medical students would wear metal masks to protect them from bacteria during dissections. Clearly the fellow was using such a mask to protect his anonymity, wouldn't you say?
Objection!
But there's more to the story, isn't there? The article goes on to say, in the next second, a gunshot rang out suddenly from behind. The bullet pierced the resurrected man's chest, whose breath then stilled once more.
We might assume that the sexton discovered the miscreants at work, perhaps, and fired upon one of them.
If a gravedigger had shot someone in the cemetery, I think it might have been rather big news, my lord.
Well, yes.
I can only assume it was an embellishment bolted on later by the reporter. Oh. What's up, Madame Tusspells? What's up, girl?
Excuse me.
Madame Tusspells, don't take it out on Mr. Holmes.
Oh la la! Pardon? I was lost in my thoughts.
Would it be fair to say that Mr. Drebber's last remark was significant to you in some way?
I thought it was a little strange, that is all. How Monsieur Drebber could claim this now.
If you don't mind me saying, madame, what are you talking about?
Well, when I met you 10 years ago at your university dormitory, you recounted to me about your adventures in the cemetery, no? Including the gunshot.
Stop. Uh-oh, he's angry. You might want to watch your tongue, you know.
Objection!
Have a care, Drebber. That's no way to speak to a lady.
Ah.
Please, Madame Tusspells, carry on.
Of course. I'm not afraid of you, little peon. According to what Monsieur Drebber told me at the time, he did hear a gunshot from behind him, and the bullet hit the condemned man.
I said nothing of the sort.
None. You were very explicit about the details. About the mask that the figure was wearing. And the blood that spattered over you when he was shot.
Enough. Shut up, woman. You're making all this up.
Here we go. The blood on the camera. Here we go. That will do. Mr. Drebber,
Yes.
you refute the account just given by Madame Tusspells.
I have no recollection of ever saying those things.
Come on! Do you really expect us to believe?
Control yourself, counsel. I will not permit baseless accusations in my courtroom.
Oh, come on. He was just bullying her.
Right.
Under the circumstances, I think it best that you supplement your testimony with a statement to clarify your position on this witness.
Very well.
This is all BS, man. He's just lying and lying and lying. Oh, so frustrating. Oh, I know we all just want to go in there and smack him. You think even Von Zeeks is like, I'm sick of this guy. I'm so sick of this guy. I think we all are. Oh, but we gotta do it by the book. Come on, we're gonna get him.
There was no gunshot from behind me at all, nor any spattering blood.
Alright.
Alright.
Hold it!
Yet Madame Tusspells has testified that you told her about both of these details.
Not true. I said nothing of the sort.
10 years have passed. Without material evidence to the contrary, you have no grounds on which to question the witness's word.
But I do! I do! Come on, Ryunosuke, we got this. Tell me, Madame Tusspells,
Oui?
What exactly did Mr. Drebber say about the blood that apparently spattered on him?
Hello? This is what he told me. All of a sudden, he heard a very loud gunshot from behind his back. The bullet hit the figure who was emerging from the tomb in the middle of the chest, in his heart.
One dreadful sight after another.
And since Monsieur Drebber was at that time facing towards the condemned man, the blood sprayed from the wound and spattered on his body. That is what he told me.
So, not an experience you would ever forget, is it?
Precisely. And I didn't forget it, because as I've already said, it never happened in the first place.
He's clearly lying. If only I had some evidence to prove it.
We can't let him win, Mr. Naruhodo. So we mustn't overlook a single detail, no matter how small.
We got this. Alright. I'm gonna double check the camera. Dark staining is visible on the bellows, so hopefully I'm fine because I already examined it, right? So I should be good.
Objection!
Oh, no! No, I guess I have to examine it again? I thought that I already examined it, so I thought I would be fine. Ugh, fine.
That last statement would seem to be at odds with the evidence.
Ugh, okay. I should have just examined it again just to be safe. Silly me. I thought, because I read it and it's mentioned the dark stains, I thought that was fine.
It just seems to be jar, though, don't you think?
Just seems to jar.
What I think is that this whole exchange has been extremely jarring, yes. Perhaps I need to reconsider this.
Okay, hold on. Ah, that's frustrating. Do I just have to keep pressing? Do I have to press every statement? So frustrated, maybe. Let me just press everything then. I don't know. I really thought that was it. That's frustrating. I don't know.
That young woman being Madame Tusspells, of course, about the
And wax figure. Maybe I have to press every statement. I was so sure.
that young woman being Madame Tusspells, of course.
I guess we have to verify that that's his camera. That's the only thing, right? Even though it feels obvious. How are we supposed to do that, though? I don't know. There was nothing yet about that. Precisely. I must say, I didn't expect to run into her again like this 10 years later.
As I have explained, I went by the name published in the article, and Komolka.
I'm not fully sure.
I found the man.
Like I said, I don't know anything about French.
Yes, the article in the Daily Circus, I think you said.
I was a poor student with barely a penny to my name at the time. And the young lady put £5 in front of me.
So you readily consented to having a wax work of yourself made and gave permission for it to be put on display.
I did. I should sell what little I had to sell, I concluded.
Oui, I remember now. I purchased something else from you that day, n'est-ce pas?
There we go. Okay. Whew, thank goodness. So yeah, okay. So I had to press this one at least. So we could establish that the camera belongs to him. Got it. Oh, that's frustrating though. Because I thought I could jump straight to it, but no, I guess yeah, we had to establish that the camera belongs to him. Even though as a player, you know, you kind of like could put two and two together, but you know, in the court of law, you still have to evidence and proof and all of that. Got it. Dang it, Binks. It's one of those times when I presented something and then I wasn't sure if I presented it correctly, so then I did it again. Now we have 2 penalties. Dang it. Oh, I should have only had 1 penalty and then realized I was wrong. But no. Ah, whatever. It's a blind LP. I'm gonna make mistakes. I'm human. Unlike this man who's, who's like a cyborg or something. I need to look up, like, what's the difference between a cyborg and an android? I never knew the difference between them. I think one of them's like someone who was born a human and then like had robotic parts added to them later. And then one of them, I think, was not born, but was like created, like made, right? Or am I wrong? Or are they like synonymous, like equal to each other? Cyborg and android can be exchanged. Like the term, it doesn't matter. I'm very curious. Because I just remember there was a show called Cyborg 009. And I think they were all humans who then had stuff like changed and added to them later. And then I'm thinking a Dragon Ball Z Android 19 in them. And they were not born, they were created. So in my mind, I think androids are the created ones and cyborgs are the human ones with stuff added. That makes sense to me in my mind. That's all I can think of. So I think he would be a cyborg. Just like I'm thinking of Cyborg from Teen Titans as well. So that's kind of me attempting to work it out and answer my own question. I hope I'm right.
Did you? I can't say I remember.
What was it, Madame?
His camera.
Yep. Ah.
Oh yes, I made a point of taking it with me whenever I made an excursion into any cemetery.
You took a camera with you, sir. To what end?
To record the details of the bodies I disinterred. But I had no intention of ever visiting a graveyard again after that night, so I sold it.
I see.
But I still have it, monsieur. It is part of the special exhibit in my House of Horrors. I am very meticulous about such details. It is the Tusspells way. It would seem, then, that this is the very camera Mr. Drebber took with him to Lowgate Cemetery on the night in question.
As we suspected.
Yes. Interesting.
Got it. Finally. The actual camera that he had with him. That's what we needed it to say. Alright. Now we're good. Now we got you. Okay. Whew. I was stressed. Alright, we good now. We good. Let's get him. With your actual camera.
Objection!
Yee finally.
Mr. Drebber, do you remember this camera?
But that is the camera from that fateful night.
Yes, we borrowed it from the House of Horrors.
Oh, you actually took it? Wow. Sometimes I'm like not sure. It's a little unclear half the time when they're actually stealing evidence and putting it in their pocket, or when they're just like jotting a note about it or taking a picture of it. But like in this case, y'all actually took it. Damn.
It's the camera you took with you to the cemetery that night, Mr. Drebber.
And is that supposed to be significant?
This kind of camera is rarely seen in our homeland, so my colleague and I were keen to examine it closely. We noticed that the lens extends forwards on the end of some bellows. Like this.
Hold it!
What's that? There, just on the bellows.
Oh, you got some good eyes. You saw that immediately. Damn, bro.
It looks like a dark red stain.
Ah,
That's right. It's a rather conspicuous mark here on the bellows, in fact.
Good lord, are you suggesting?
Hey, you're quick on the uptick. Good job, Judge.
Yes, my lord. It would appear to be a spatter of blood.
Something that could be confirmed with a simple chemical test. Isn't that right, Dr. Scythe? It would be difficult to determine if it was human blood and not the blood of some animal.
Uh-huh, sure.
But yes, to test whether or not it's blood at all is simple enough.
I propose that Madame Tusspells' testimony was correct, and that on the night in question 10 years ago, you were spattered with blood from the gunshot wound.
well,
And that furthermore, you really did witness the condemned professor emerging from his tomb.
Ah!
Bruh.
There's simply no way you could have forgotten such a traumatic experience. In other words, the only explanation is that you're trying to hide the fact that you saw the professor that night.
Objection!
But why? Why would he want to do that?
Well, not for his own gain, it would seem.
For whose then? Who could benefit?
You covering your face like that means you know the answer. And you're not even really covering it. You're just doing a dramatic pose. It's like someone's taking pictures and they're like, and pose. Do your angst pose. But, like, I did mention this before, but I'm like, why has he stopped doing the leg animation? Was it too much for them? Like, they were like, yeah, let's not. Let's not do this anymore. It's highly inappropriate. Too sexual. I mean, he's already too hot and sexy as a man. It's like too many fangirls were fainting every time he did it. Those leg muscles. I didn't appreciate it enough in the first game. I should have paid more attention every time he did the leg. To be fair, he didn't do it as frequently as he does the chalice thing. Man, I should have been paying more attention every time those gorgeous long legs did it. You know? Ah, I miss the leg. I do.
Mr. Drebber is obviously lying in order to protect somebody.
My goodness, he's shielding someone.
Looks at her. She's looking away from him too.
Yes, my lord, and clearly. It's someone who doesn't want the truth about the professor coming back to life to be exposed.
Well, counsel, who is it then? Who is this witness trying to protect by lying about what he saw that night? I mean,
He's looking right at her. Y'all, it's very obvious.
Take that!
The obvious answer is Dr. Scythe.
Scythe. Whatever do you mean?
She's also doing her sexy, dramatic, confident pose. She's like, yeah, so what? Come at me, bro. That's what her pose is reading.
Oh, I'm gonna come at you, alright. In a non-sexual way.
Why, Binks? Why did you go there?
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
Don't say that in Ryunosuke's voice. How dare you put the kind of words in his mouth. You know he's innocent, Biggs. You know that. You know he's an innocent cinnamon roll.
Imagine if the convict who'd been sentenced to death was not in fact killed. Imagine if that was to come to light.
What are you insinuating?
And imagine if the convict in question was the country's most hated mass murderer. If it was the professor.
That would be an unprecedented scandal.
Objection!
This is beyond a joke. Need I point out that the dead cannot come back to life? What you're suggesting would mean that the execution never actually happened.
Exactly. Finally, you said it.
Yes, that's exactly what it would mean.
Objection!
Oh, and he turned around.
Once a man is sent to the gallows, he hangs. No one could escape. Not in Great Britain.
Objection!
But the fact is, there was a witness to the fact that the man did escape his hanging.
If that were really true, Counsel, the implications of misconduct would not stop at the supervising coroner. It would taint the honor of the entire judiciary from the ground up.
Hey, that ain't my problem. I'm here to reveal the truth. The rest of the fallout lands on all of y'all. You know?
And it's exactly because of those monumental repercussions that Dr. Scythe would consent to any demand made of her by someone who threatened to expose the secret, even if that meant being complicit in a crime.
You mean...
I mean that Dr. Scythe wasn't collaborating in Mr. Drebber's wicked scheme. She was coerced into collaborating in order to protect her decade-old secret. She switched the dead body of Mr. Asman with a waxwork model and fabricated the autopsy report. Ah!
Yeah. There it is! There's the leg! I asked for it and it came back!
Lord Von Zeeks, your glorious leg! I haven't seen it in so long.
And you still managed to do it with a man standing right next to you. Damn, bro.
He's like, yes, it was kind of hard with him standing right there, but I did it. I'm very flexible.
Haven't seen your leg in a long time, man. I kind of want the text box out of the way so I can look at it. Your shoe looks very clean, though.
Pray forgive my freshly filled hollow chalice, and a whole raft of other discourtesies now. Goodness me! The leg is back. Oh, and it's gone. Okay.
Oh, I asked for it and they heard me. My prayers were answered.
It's just the sort of tall tale Londoners would enjoy, I grant you. An executed killer rising from the dead. A Scotland Yard cover-up. A conspiracy at the highest levels. This is like case 5 kind of BS, you know?
I know, we only in case 3, y'all. How is this happening? We're in case 3. What is gonna happen in case 4 and 5? This is like way too high of a level. I'm a little scared. I'm a little worried. First of all, this case has been very long. And this is huge stuff going on. I know that we still have like the Hound of the Baskervilles stuff coming up. More of like the professor and all of that. But I feel like that's gonna be 4 instead of 5? Because it feels like it naturally should lead into that, right? I don't know. I don't know. This is crazy.
So let me ask you one thing.
What's that?
If the condemned man really did emerge from his tomb that night, only to be shot in the chest, who pulled the trigger and disposed of him forever?
I don't know. That I have no idea. I don't think we're going to know. At least not yet. I doubt we'll find out in this case. I doubt it. That would be shocking. Maybe like the very end we'll find out or something.
Well, I have no idea at the moment.
We have too little information to work that out at present, I think.
I couldn't agree more, and
That's really not my job. I mean, I'm supposed to be defending Hairbrain, and now look at all this BS I'm having to work out. Like, this is crazy, y'all. Having to solve, like, some old mysteries. Typical Ace Attorney, right? You gotta do so many things. Oh, Ryunosuke. You're establishing a precedent that poor Phoenix and Apollo are gonna have to follow. Hey, it rhymed. And Athena.
well. I couldn't agree more.
The Old Bailey is no place for wild fantasies.
Ugh.
And have you considered this, my learned Nipponese friend?
Considered what?
Do you realize just what a dangerous endeavor it would be to coerce this woman into such criminal activity? She'd kill you, look at that, she's dangerous. It's tantamount to declaring war on the entire British police force and judiciary.
Quite hard to imagine any sum of money being offered for research could warrant it.
To rely on some stage deception when so much is at stake would be madness.
Well, I suppose.
This was no petty crime either. The victim was murdered. A man who'd already invested money in the venture and would be instrumental in future profits too.
Yes, I had no reason to kill Mr. Asmund at all.
Here we go, back to motive, right? I know that that's very important here.
Or are you forgetting that his death results in me receiving not a single penny? The court is already aware of the contract between myself and the victim, no?
There is the contract, that's very true.
Damn. Well, that's a little tricky. A little awkward spot, but I think we might as well just leave it right here. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you're enjoying this. I think we're really getting close now. This is, really building up. So I'm excited. All right, so until next time, have a nice day. Bye-bye.